Morning. What's going on, everyone? Happy Monday. I missed you all over the weekend and hope you are well and doing great wherever you are in the world right now. I am so glad that you are here. It is good that you are here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, CTM. We got a special session ahead of us. It's going to be one of the good ones. There are so many good ones. I met on top of the mountain over the weekend a friend from CTM. And I was telling him lately, every single session has been so important. This one will continue. We're going to be looking at when price may make a new all-time high, what our goalposts are, what our guidelines are, our guides. All models are broken. Michael Saylor, the Chad of all Chads, Michael Saylor, all models are broken. Michael meant to the upside. What Michael meant when he says all models will break is he means to the upside, when an enormous inflows of capital all of a sudden just makes all models irrelevant. Now, Michael didn't mean all models are broken to the downside. He legitimately did not mean that, intend that. Is that possible that all models have broken to the downside and Bitcoin's about to take out $20,000 and then $10,000 and then go into zero? You understand the risk, and there is a risk that could happen. Now, no one believes that. That's no one's. When Michael says all models are broken, he means to the upside, that eventually, all of a sudden, this thing is going to take off when we see hyper Bitcoinization. But that term was coined. That term was coined when Michael Saylor thought that Bitcoin was a pyramid scheme. That's the truth, right? Bitcoiners have been here, have done that, and are along the way. We're going to be taking a look at some important, let's say, I don't want to, do we call it modeling? Do we call it our guide? We're going to put it all together. This is going to be a good session, everyone, including when we're going to be perhaps taking out that all-time high here on that cycle, approximately 64,500. Before we do, I want to take a look at what's going on in the markets right now, because a lot of people are pretty nervous, right? Bitcoin over here is testing the lower end of support around $30,000. Channel support, This channel is kind of difficult to draw in, or at least for myself it was. But this is the guide that I'm looking at, right? And you can see that we're testing the lower end of the support now. We all know that we got the horizontal support in this area, right? Right around 30,000 as well. And if we break it, price is making another leg down, or should make another leg down. Now, is it also entirely possible, you notice that everyone, or when I say everyone, I speak loosely. Obviously, I don't mean everyone, but the majority of the float out there, they believe that before price could move up, that we need some type of capitulation event. And that might happen, right? That might happen right now. Do you all remember what happened 4 years ago in July? 4 years ago in July, during the Bitcoin bull market, Bitcoin had a capitulation event and then shot and sprang sharply up. Now, it doesn't have to repeat itself, but these things tend to rhyme. We didn't have a blow off top mid-cycle. And I was looking for a double wave like in 2013. I was looking in January for perhaps a blow off top, which would have led to prolonged consolidation and then a second wave. But we didn't have a blow off top, and we don't need a capitulation, right? Now, we could have a capitulation event that sends this, right? We could have a capitulation, or is it capitulation if all of a sudden price doesn't recover for an extended period of time? Well, no, it's not. And that could happen. We could actually make a leg down and we could enter what is a mid-cycle bear market. Hey, that's a new one. What do we do with all that? How do we digest that? Be ready for anything. Be ready for anything. But right now, when we look at what's going on with price, we see that we are coming down into support right now. The markets are bleeding, right? Especially crypto being hit hard right now. The dollar has broken out. I'm going to get back into the presentation in just a moment, but I need to give everyone just a clean and clear overview of what's happened in the markets this morning, this Monday morning. It's a little bit. Is today the 21st, by the way? Oh, no. I'm looking forward to the 21st and when we have Elon sitting down with Jack, Kathy Woods, ARK Investments, one of the sponsors of this event, making sure that Elon understands Bitcoin incentivizes clean energy. And today we have Kakistan, adding more coal mining to the Bitcoin network. Hey, the fiat systems use coal. Why not? I'm all about it. All right. Anyway, DXY, we're seeing it break the neckline over here. We're now breaking out, right, of this neckline, waiting for the retest to watch if the retest holds and we resume off. That's conquering the markets all day long, or to see what happens as we come back into that. Now, could Bitcoin and the dollar both run together? Absolutely. Absolutely. It was last week we looked at that very specifically to show you that when the dollar has been its strongest, Bitcoin has also been its strongest. We're looking at the Nasdaq this morning. It's tumbling down a little bit. It was on Friday's session. I told you, watch what happens if we break this area right over here. And we've rolled over since. What happens next? We're going to be looking at that tomorrow. This is a very specific session over here where I want to get everyone as clear as possible. So we're going to move back over here now. Oh, by the way, I only talked about the downside. Excuse me. What about the upside, right? What will lead? We're into support over here. We got a confluence of support, horizontal support around $30,000. We have this little tight channel support that's been going on for the last couple of weeks, almost a few weeks now. And if we bounce off this support, we got resistance above us. We need to break this resistance if any move is to happen to the upside. All right? Everyone knows that. By the way, if we do break this resistance to the upside, I personally believe, and I say that without breaking down, right? If we break down, new scenario. If we hold over here, right, and break this resistance, I do believe that brings us into a retest of the most important trend line in crypto, followed by. That's what will happen next, in my opinion. But as that occurs, if that occurs, I will let you know that. Right now, we are into support. If we lose this area of support, and then we're looking to make another leg down, we will monitor price and see if this is going to be a prolonged leg that's going to take some time to recover from, or whether or not it'll be some type of capitulation event. There's a lot of leverage out there. Once again, my friends, a lot could happen, and no one knows which way she goes. Will the golden ratio hold? Perhaps. It's a model. It's a guide to help us. It's what has happened before. We don't know if it continues forward. But keep in mind, as everyone is uber bearish over here, when people talk about your models are broken, they are talking about to the upside. No one is talking about the models being broken to the downside. All right, let's take it off. We're looking over here at some important dates over here. Now, these dates are rough sketches. We're looking and talking about two things. First, when price may make a new all-time high, taking out 64,500, and when the cycle may peak. All right. Now, in blue over here, we're looking at potential markers, and green markers are cycle peaks. We're going to be referring to that over and over again. I'm going to start off over here on looking and lining up these cycles from the bottom. This is the Bitcoin cycle bottom index. Now, most importantly, understand that we're looking at days after the bottom. We're going to come back to this in the future during this session, but right now we're looking at days, right? And if someone's looking at these past data points, and yeah, we only have 2 data points, right? But that's all we have to go off of, right? So it's all we can go off of. And if you're looking at this, you could say, well, the cycle peaked over here, approximately 740 days after the bottom, right? And then the next cycle, Jordan, well, that was like 10,000, let's call it, 1,050 days after, right? Let's go over here and you can see we have 704. It looks like a 45% increase from the high. It's a 45% increase. So if I'm looking at 2 past data points and I'm looking at lining up the cycles from the bottom, right? And you have to look at Bitcoin from multiple angles, from multiple lenses. You can't just pick one and stick with one, right? That's boxing yourself in, but you need to consult all the vantage points you can. One vantage point that we're starting off with is looking at the cycle bottoms, right? Why not? And then days after the bottom. And I can see, well, we have like a 45% increase between this peak to this peak. So is it possible that we have another 45% increase from this peak to this peak, right? From the cycle peak over here? And where does that bring us? That brings us approximately, right? Well, that brings us approximately to 1,800 days, right? How many, if you take 365 days a year times 4, right? Because the halving event, is it every 4 years? No, it's every 210,000 blocks, okay? But in the beginning here, we're going to start with days. And let's just use, for rough estimates, 365 days times 4, right? We're looking at 1460. Right over here, right around here, where this length of this 2016 cycle in red was approximately 460 days or 4 years. Is it possible that we go out another 45% from here and all of a sudden the halving event is no longer relevant? Well, if you're lining cycles off of the bottom, maybe you're not paying much attention to the halving event, right? And we could also look at when the cycles bottomed over here, when they bottomed. And again, we have approximately, I don't know, I'm going to eyeball it. I would say it's about 35%, length. Could this continue extending outwards and the halving become even? Well, the way that I view Bitcoin is that the halving event is the catalyst that causes the price shock within Bitcoin, causing this bull market phase. Then you're looking at coded monetary supply with human psychological behavior. That's Bitcoin in a nutshell. So, we'll come back to this, but right now let's move on a little forward. Let's move on a little forward and see what we're going to look at next. This is over here. I was just taking, if you were to add 25%, it was 25% length from where we bottomed over here into over here. And if you add another 25%, all of a sudden you're looking at 1,800 days. We had already done that math. You're extending beyond the 4-year cycle. I don't know how to view that. When you view this chart, there's some big errors with it, but the symmetry looks very beautiful. It's showing that since 2011, you've seen the peaks of Bitcoin have been in December. Is it possible that we peak again in December, right? And what about the bottoms? Are the bottoms in December as well, right? Yes, they are, but not December, not December 2015 and not December 2019. Actually, the bottom over here is closer to December 2014. It's January 15th, right? Let me go ahead and it's over here. It's January the 15th. This is the 2013 bull market peak. It peaks the last day of November, first day of December. All right, come back to it. Follow my. You have to. What I'm laying out here is gonna bring. It's gonna like help the scales fall from the eyes. You're gonna see with a lot firmer clarity, a lot firmer belief. Jordan, you got to stop with the hopium. That was the comment shared this morning over here, right? Jordan, you have to stop giving people here hope to the people. No, I will always give hope to the people. I will always give hope, right? Why? Hope, faith, hope, charity, right? Of all these, charity is the greatest. We all know that. But how important it is to have hope. And why not have hope? Don't forget, when you look back, I saw it very early. I positioned very early. We all positioned very early. Back then, at that particular time, people thought it was absolutely crazy. Even giving diminishing returns price targets of $160,000, people thought that's not possible. What, Jordan, why are you giving hope out there? Right? If you lose hope, you lose everything. It is Michael Saylor who has the domain hope.com. Hope.com. Go to hope.com. I haven't been there yet myself, but you're going to see a bunch of information helping understand the bullish case for Bitcoin. You know, always hold fast and tight to hope. What about December 2017? I just wanted to point out the cycle lows, the bear market lows are about a year earlier. You know, it also was December 2018 where we put in that bear market low. And the bear markets, by the way, they're bear markets, by the way, they last approximately 12 months. 12 months and 2 weeks. Both of them in the past have lasted from the cycle peak to the bear market low, 12 months and 2 weeks, right? Do we project that the next bear market will also last 12 months and 2 weeks or thereabouts? Or do we think that these cycles are actually going to start getting longer, right? As adoption has not yet entered any type of top of the bell curve, right? Do we think that as the miners are still not getting the majority of their rewards from the fees, do we think that the halving has become irrelevant and that we're going to see the lengthening of these bull cycles over here, and then all of a sudden either the bear market is going to disappear, or do we think that, you know, there's a good chance this symmetry continues? I am with the latter. I think that there's a good chance this symmetry continues, understanding that each cycle is unique. Each cycle is not repeating itself to the day or anything close to that, but it certainly continues to rhyme over here. Zen was sharing the analysis over here of wise analysis. Oh, Zen is wise analysis over here. Let me make sure to go ahead and like this over here. I like the view. You know, it doesn't offer me anything more than the view. This is not telling me that price is going to peak in December. And this is not telling me that we're looking at price bottoming in 2 years later in December. But you could see, as you look at coded monetary supply, the symmetry taking place. What about what's next? You have to look at Bitcoin from different vantage points and different layers. If you're looking at the price of Bitcoin, you know, currently and then 4 years prior, by the way, it was 4 years prior that we were in July 2017, also in a bull market phase. Price came off 40% and then bottom in July before running hard and fast. By the way, when it came off 40%, how long did it take to make that new all-time high? It wasn't very long. It wasn't very long at all. Now, that doesn't have to repeat itself, right? Because it was a very long time until in 2013, price made that new all-time high. But if you're looking and layering this up and you look at, oh, look, 4 years, the peak over here in December 2017, 4 years earlier, maybe 4 years and 2 weeks earlier, price had peaked. What about the bottom over here? I could look at the bottom of the bear market over here, and then 4 years earlier, oh, it was just 2 weeks later that price had peaked. You know, the 4-year cycle. Why would people call it the 4-year cycle? What's going on over here? And why do I think that this is any reason at this particular point injunction to break? And if this guide, not model, this guide has broken, what would lead me to believe that it has broken to the downside? Do you think right now that we're looking at a coordinated, you know, geopolitical attack versus Bitcoin? There's a Reddit post out there, you know, People talking about, oh, at this particular date, the powers that be are going to attack Bitcoin, and here's what it's going to look like. Well, how did you get? Do you think that these guys? Do you think that these powers that be are so unsophisticated that they were able to leak their plans on Reddit so that you're privy to them and could position for it? Right? The markets are not crashing. The prices may be slashing. Don't try to pick tops. Don't try to pick bottoms. The model's not broke. The guy's not broke until it's broken. You have to look at it for what it is. Now, there are people who think that we're seeing or perhaps looking at lengthening cycles. They could very well be. You have to consult all aspects. No one's talking about shorten cycles. A lot of people think that we're in a bear market. A lot of people have called this as the bear market, and that's a shorter cycle. I would like to see why, the thought process going into why people think that we're seeing shorter cycles and what that all means. All right, let's keep going over here. What else are we looking at next? Well, this one's interesting, right? Because now instead of looking at days, because over here we're looking at days after the bottom, lengthening cycles. Oh yeah, sure, I see it, lengthening, but that's not how Bitcoin works. Well, how does Bitcoin work? Bitcoin has a halving of the miner's reward every 210,000 blocks. Well, does it make sense to use days then, or should we perhaps be looking at blocks? Well, you got to consult multiple layers. You got to look at Bitcoin from multiple vantage points and not just one. There's no one way that's correct to look at it. I could be standing on top of like a mountain looking down. You could be in the valley looking up. Someone could be completely horizontal looking directly. You got to look at it from all different vantage points, but it makes sense to look at Bitcoin from cycle block count, being that's what this is all about over here. And when I look at the halving, and I'm scaling these to the halving right now, but I look at how many blocks, right, after the halving, well, I could see that the first cycle, or the 2012 cycle, rather, I should say, and the 2016 cycle, well, yeah, we do have lengthening again. It's approximately a difference of, let's call it 25,000 blocks, 20,000 blocks, but they're lined up a lot closer. Same thing with the cycle bottom over here, the bear market low, I should say. They're actually very, very, very close, almost identical in the amount of blocks. So what makes more sense? Is it lining things up from the cycle bottom? And why the cycle bottom, right? Because Bitcoin, and don't forget it, it's all about the halving event. It is the halving event every 4 years that causes the supply shock. Should I then line these models up from the bottom and use the amount of days? And if I do, yeah, I could definitely see lengthening cycles off these 2 data points. Now, it's only 2 data points, but that's all we have to go off of. I don't have any qualms about someone looking at these past 2 cycles using the cycle bottom and how many days after and telling them, well, you can't only look at 2 data points, right? But I could look at 2 data points as well, lining them up this way, using actually the halving, and then using, lining them up by using blocks, which is what Bitcoin is using. And I'm seeing a close symmetry. What happens if we take this a little bit further? You saw a couple of dates over here, August the 17th. Why do I have that over here? Before I go any further, these are not dates as specific dates that we expect anything to happen. They are nothing more than markers. Okay? We're going to focus on this one first, the August the 21st. And why I have it there is if you say that price so far this cycle remains to be an average of the previous 2 in both the volatility to the upside, in the volatility to the downside, and in the duration of the consolidation, and you add these 2 together and divide by 2, right? Then all of a sudden you're saying, okay, well, we should make the new all-time high by August the 17th. I personally don't see that happening. Is it possible? Well, price came down in 3, 6, 9, 12 days, but prices tends to staircase up, right, and fall down. If I look at this little bit of a sample over here, yeah, I could see that price has the potential to do that, right? Price has done it, several months ago. It has had that, it could do it. It's possible. Is it probable? I don't know. It depends. Are we going to get that capitulation event that would then send it? It's more likely price were to do something like that if we had a capitulation event, right? Otherwise, as we continue to round out over here, and if we round out over here, it looks like by the time we break the most important trend line in crypto, it'll be into September, right? And then we're looking at October 21st. Why do I have that marker over here, right? Well, if you look at how long it took price, 197 days to make the new, from the last time it made the new all-time high until it made the new all-time high again, is 197 days. And if you take that from the all-time high that we have currently on the 13th of April and you add 197 days, well, we have into October, the end of October, right? Is it potentially possible that price makes a new all-time high by the end of October? Well, that seems like a layup. Yeah, very much so. Now, is it possible that this is the window that we're looking at, and somewhere within this range, that's when price makes the new all-time high? That's my base case. I would say that's exactly what we're looking at. Okay, and what I love this, and I love what's happening, because a couple of things are taking place. We're gonna look back on this soon because time doesn't stop. Time keeps going, right? And we're gonna come back. I remember what it was like over here. I remember what it was like when we were looking in 2018 and we were watching price capitulate over here, and everyone was so fearful. And I remember people talking about this hyper wave and how like the only instrument that never went down like blah 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 was the Nasdaq, and that's because it's rebalanced and Bitcoin's going to $1,000. And the negativity and the fear was rampant. And I remember, right? And by the way, I didn't sell the cycle peak in December 2017. Why? Well, I didn't understand the full year cycle of Bitcoin, right? It was missing the cycle peak over here that caused me to do during 2018, during the bear market, extensive research to come to understand and grasp Bitcoin. Yeah, I got lucky positioning in when I first positioned into Bitcoin during the summer of 2016. Why do I say I got lucky? Because I didn't understand Bitcoin. It took me many years to understand Bitcoin. The amount of information available is much different today as it was even just 4 years ago. Massively different. And I would spend 40 hours a week plus just completely absorbed in Bitcoin. But when I missed this cycle peak, I wanted to know more, right? And I spent all this time researching Bitcoin and coming to understand the 4-year cycle of Bitcoin. And when we bottomed over here, I knew that we bottomed over here. When I positioned in over here, people thought that was completely wrong, right? Completely wrong. Calling this up impulse over here, right? And now when we're over here, a lot of people, and when I say a lot of people, I'm talking about people that are new to the space, right? Or people that don't really believe that the halving event is a catalyst of Bitcoin or the most important catalyst in Bitcoin. But there are a lot of people who think that the bull market's over. There are a lot of people who think that the bull market's over and Bitcoin's going to $20,000, right? Now there are some level-headed people, and people think that maybe we're coming in the mid 20s, between 25,000 and 28,000, and listen, that seems very probable. That's very level-headed in my opinion. Now that's not a given. That may or may not happen. No one could know. No one could predict the future with that type of accuracy, right? We don't know, but people are talking about some obscene things, Bitcoin $10,000, and why that's possible. And it's also possible Bitcoin goes to 20 million, right? And it's also possible we see some type of hyperinflation inside the US that unfolds over the next X amount of months, and that Bitcoin goes like to gazillion. All that. But what's probable? Well, I'm telling you, just so everyone remembers and understands, just as it was over here when I called the bottom, that I'm calling that we're mid-cycle, and people soon enough, because the next, into the close here, the rest of 2021, it's going to be a wild ride. It's going to be a wild, and I want people to remember that as everyone was very confused of where we were in the Bitcoin cycle, that Jordan on Conquer Trading and Investing, right? Held firm and strong to his thesis, which to date has been the most correct, that we are mid-cycle. And that's where we are, mid-cycle. So what are we looking at over here, right? Do I know when we break the most important trend line in crypto? I do not. I do believe that once we break the most important trend line in crypto, that it's going to be relatively quick into price makes that new all-time high. I believe that window, the best guide that I could give myself is in between this area over here. Between the middle towards the end of August into the end of October, right? And if that's occurring, why do I have these two posts over here? Why do I have September the 25th? Let's go back over here to the rational root, right? What is he looking at over here? We're lining things up how? This is a little bit different, and it's another way to view Bitcoin. It's lining things up from the previous all-time high. And it's a good way to do it. We start lining things up off the halving. I think that's the best way to do it. I've always said that. Until price makes the new all-time high. Is it possible we have to revert back to the halving and then we know going forward that it's the halving? Yes, that's entirely possible. Is it better? Do you remember we used the halving tracker? Bitstein, amazing, phenomenal work he has provided to the community in many different forms, not just with the halving tracker. But the halving tracker is counting using the halving as the marker, and then it's using days. Is it possible the best map, the best guide that we have going forward is using lining things up with the halving and then block count? Well, that makes much more sense. I like that. I can see that. But also at this particular stage, and what's this stage that we're in? We're in the exploration stage. We've only had 2 full cycles, before us. This is only the third. Bitcoin is a baby. It's really a baby. This is, if you follow baseball and in a baseball game there's 9 innings, like what inning are we in? Are we still in the first inning? Are we in the bottom of the first inning? Or we may be in the bottom of the second inning? Either which way, it's very early in the game and we're figuring it out. We are the pioneers blazing the trails. We don't know what is correct, so we put all of our collective minds together and we try to get the greatest clarity we could get. And we'll fall back to that over here as we look at CTM modeling over here, led by Ted, Ian, Jesse contributing over here, all of CTM putting it together. And I would like to say, led by the work that we've done over here on CTNI. And there's a lot of people who have influenced that. Charts BTC, one of them. Charts BTC is the one who helped me understand the 4-year cycle the easiest and the clearest. Now, I've never been one to use the stock to flow or consult the stock to flow model. Do I think that long term it's a good model? Well, you know what? Until it's broken, why not consult it from afar? All right, let's keep going. What I'm looking at over here is price. When price makes the new all-time high, start lining these up. Now, when we do that, we see that Bitcoin in each of these 2 previous cycles, it peaked approximately 300 days after. Okay, do we have to consult that? Why, certainly we have to consult that. If we consult that, right, then over here we have around the middle of September. Now, I said that these markers here are just markers. They're not to the date. It's not date specific or anything like that. It's just to give you some guidelines. But over here towards the middle of September, that would be approximately 300 days, middle to end of September, 300 days since price made that new all-time high, taking out the 19,400 until in the previous 2 cycles, it peaked. Should we consult that window? Why, yes, we should. There's no question about that, right? Now, when we're using the way Ian's currently lining things up, we're looking at towards now, sometime in December as perhaps the cycle peak. And we don't have the answer yet. We don't have the answer yet, but that's why this is the best model. And when I say that's why this is the best model, because if you look at the cycle peak over here, we know that that's September. Hey, that's approximately 300 days when price made that new all-time high, right? And then we have over here in towards December, right? We have this big window to know that we're looking within. And then when we overlay each model and each way that we look at it, and then when we see where price overlaps the most, that's our projected mean target and what perhaps we're looking for. We don't have it fully worked out yet. And as price takes out the most important trend line in crypto, right? And as price takes out the previous all-time high, we're going to have a lot more data to work with to try to get this a lot cleaner and accurate, so we do know what we believe to be the best guide for us to continue to use, is specifically through the rest of this bull market phase over here, right? Why a lot of people believe the bull market is over. We received shorter cycles with massively diminishing returns, right? Now, diminishing returns, by the way that I worked it out, is $160,000, right? That's a far cry from $64,000, right? We'll see who's right, and it won't be too long. We're talking about the end of the year. We're about halfway there. It's going to come, and it's going to come quick. We'll see who was on the right side of the trade the whole time, who got confused, who was led astray, right? Those are what I was looking at over here. By the way, did you see this? If you didn't, I met on top of the mountain over here on Saturday, Mohal. It was he was with his wife and son, and I saw that, and I was like, "Hey, can I take you a photo of your family?" And he's, "Oh, please, that would be great." And I'm taking them a photo, and then afterwards, he's like, "Wait, are you Jordan from CTM?" I'm like, "All day long." Yeah, how beautiful to meet a CTM member on top of the mountain over here, to be able to get together, talk Bitcoin with a friend on top of the mountain. Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. You all are so important to me. All right. Anything that I left out? Anything that I left out? What's the greatest takeaway that we're looking at over here today? Well, the greatest takeaway that I could give you is that you have to consult the data that we currently have. That's all we could do. Now, you've heard people like Michael Saylor. If you saw the interview he did with Benjamin Cohen, he's saying, you can't consult past models. The dollar devalued by 37% last year. Well, that's the model Michael's using. Michael's saying that the dollar, on average, has been devaluing 7% a year, right? Now that looks like that's going to be raised higher as we're doing $1.4 trillion in QE, and the devaluation of the dollar is uptaking more rapidly. Maybe it's now 15% a year, but that's the model he's using, right? Is there anything wrong when you have coded monetary supply? You know what happens exactly when the next halving will be, how many blocks ahead it will be. You can go ahead and you could go over to CoinMarketCap, go to the Bitcoin halving countdown, and we're going to see the current block that we're on. We know how many blocks are left to the next halving, right? It's not as if they meet together once a month or multiple times a quarter and then decide what they're going to do and how, what the inflation rate of Bitcoin should look like, what the max supply should. It's already coded in, right? And you could see to date that if you actually have been following the model, there's no greater way there's been to profit outside perhaps dollar cost averaging, right? Is dollar cost averaging a better way, a more efficient way to profit from Bitcoin and its cycles and its price behavior? No, but it's certainly a fundamental strategy that everyone should be employing. Everyone should have that time horizon that when I first made the bullish case to Bitcoin for all of you, and I talked about how Bitcoin, you have to view it. This is back in 2019. I told you that you have to view Bitcoin as technology. You have to look at the adoption cycle. You could use the internet as a model. By the way, we're now outpacing the adoption of the internet. And I said you have to have a long-term view. My view was 12 years, 3 more halvings. That has changed. Now we're only looking at 10 more years and 2 more halvings. Well, that's what I'm looking at. Maybe you're still looking ahead at the next 3 halvings. They're going to come. And it's not priced in yet. It's not priced in yet. You have so much time. Make sure that you are employing this type of strategy. And that should be your most fundamental strategy, right? At the same time, you have to look at what has happened in these past cycles to give us the clearest indication of what is to come. I wonder how many people in 2013, now we could probably go to bitcointalkforum.org and find out by looking at old posts during this particular time. I wonder mid-cycle 2013, how many people thought that the bull market was over, right? I wonder how many people missed out on this, the majority of the move. don't forget the majority of the move doesn't come from the first half of the bull run, right? That's what we've participated in together, but the majority of the gains have come in the last half, right? In the last half. Is that what we're going to be looking at again? I mean, that's how I'm positioned. I don't see anything yet that would really say to me that, you know what, this time is massively different, where we saw a shorter cycle with massively diminishing returns. I've heard people talking about lengthening cycles. I've heard people talking about diminishing returns. I've heard people talking about lengthening cycles and increasing returns. Both those things are possible, right? Both those. I haven't heard anyone talking about shorter cycles or what would be the reasoning behind that. We'll see, you know. And that's it. Let's go ahead and play some honeymoon vocals over here and see what's going on with all of you. Back to the block. I don't have the chart right now of leverage in Bitcoin. Go to William on Twitter and you'll find out some of those charts that are being shared or him commenting on them. I don't really think that it gives any type of edge at this particular point. And everyone that's looking on it that consults any type of on-chain analytics, they're basically saying, well, this means it could go either way. No, nobody knows. That's for sure. There's a couple of good things we need to talk about over here. One of them was something that I meant to get into that I didn't really cover well enough, and that is regarding lengthening cycles. A lot of people thinking, and again, if you just start adding, oh, well, the peak to peak here is 45% longer, the low to here, approximately 25% longer, right? And that, you remember that I had a conversation with Ken on his KS model, and he's talking about lengthening bull markets, right? And he said that the bear markets have been getting shorter. Well, that's not the way that I see it. The cycle peak over here to the bear market low, right? That was 12 months and 2 weeks. And then in the next cycle, from exactly the peak to the bear market low was again 12 months and 2 weeks, right? So they're not getting shorter. They've stayed the same. And if you keep seeing the bear market get longer, the bull market get longer, which is possible, right? Lengthening cycles is like something that I'm like, hey, look, the possibility exists, right? Here, what do we got? Lengthening cycles. We have it mentioned somewhere. I'm aware of the possible lengthening cycles and watch for it, but it's not my base case, right? Currently, Bitcoin is in the early adoption phase, and I'm also looking for shorter cycles. And if this was a shorter cycle, I missed it. If this is a shorter cycle, I missed it, right? But if you're looking at lengthening cycles, and this is your belief, I don't know how to reconcile that in the fact that we have a halving every 4 years. The bear markets are not getting shorter. That can't make up for the length of the increasing bull market. So what happens? How does that work if you're increasing your bull market by approximately 45% after? How does that even work out for this cycle? I can't reconcile that. I don't see that. Obviously, I continue to be aware of it, but it's just not my base case. I don't think that we're looking at lengthening cycles, especially this early in the adoption phase. But if we are, then we have people like Ken and people like Benjamin that we could consult, or I can consult their work a lot closer and try to make sense of it to have a better map going forward, right? The same thing with diminishing returns. Even though the math I did was as simple, as basic as you can be in 2019, early 2020 with you, when I kept showing you what a target of 160,000 would be and why using diminishing returns, Ted has a beautiful model that he did before he met up with CTM, showing what diminishing returns would look like with a regression channel on a log scale. And that's something we could consult if we see diminishing returns continue. But right now, I'm going with the base case. The base case is that we're looking, at a window over here, CTM model showing us from different vantage points, that window that we're looking at. That's where I'm looking for the peak. Do I think that we're seeing lengthening cycles? No, I don't think so. It's entirely possible. And any one of you who think that that's what we're seeing, like, get on you. That's I think that that's great. Just because I don't see something doesn't mean it's not happening. There were a lot of people who saw the exhaustion of the bull market over here. There were a lot of people over here in CTM who saw the exhaustion taking place, and I didn't. I did not see we all have biases. My bias was that if we saw a double wave, it was going to be a blow off top like in early 2013. And since we didn't have any type of blow off top, but an exhaustion rolling over, I didn't see it. Now that won't happen again. Obviously I'm not going to get burned twice, but don't, just because I see something or the way that I'm viewing something or looking at something, that doesn't mean that that's the way that you should. You should always be very open to exploring all types of different possibilities. The more that you explore, the more that you learn, the more vantage points that you view something from, then the more, let's say, hopefully, the more correct your own view and perception is going to be, right? I'm sharing with you what I see, and that's giving you another vantage point as well. All right. There's no way that I think because now, when I say that we're mid cycle, I like the probability of that, is extraordinarily high from my view and my vantage points. Right. I believe with a much higher certainty that we are mid cycle than that we won't see lengthening cycles. Right. I would say that 95% chance we're mid cycle. Right. I would say that 85% chance we don't see lengthening cycles, but definitely, anyway, but definitely, anyway. What else? Matt was asking, how do you make loan payments on a BTC loan? If you're using something like BlockFi, there's an address that you could send the collateral to, and then from within your loan management page, you could then put it to whatever particular loan you have. They have excellent customer support. Give them a call, check it out, right? What else are we looking at over here? Jordan, are the markets crashing now? Right? The markets are not crashing. Yeah, when the S&P is off 1.5%, it's not crashing right now. It's definitely. We'll look at the technicals in 1 second, actually, but I want to bring it back to you just so you understand. This is when the markets are crashing, and if you go back and you look at this channel and the videos we did over here, right? We were the first ones selling this thing, but I hadn't sold an S&P in probably like 12 years. And I jumped on this thing and it's all I was doing was selling. When the markets are crashing, we're attacking. Are the markets crashing right now? No, right? The markets weren't crashing here. 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 And if you go back throughout history, you have a million other. It's very rare that the markets crash. The other time that the markets crashed was in 2008, right? So you're talking about so far, or in my career, it's been once a decade, right? So, but people are always looking for the markets to crash. S&P is coming into some pretty important support down over here, and if it breaks it, we could see a correction. And I talked about if we break this trend line over here, that the next thing we're looking for is to see what happens in this area, right? And that could potentially hold. If we break below that, then we're looking at a real certified correction. That's a far way away from market, by the way, right? That's another 3%. Markets are off from the all-time high. How far? From the all-time high, markets are off 3%, and people are calling for the crash. I don't know that they are actually. I haven't caught up with anyone. I don't know if people think that the markets are crashing today or that it's over or anything like that. It's possible, we were watching and worried about this. If we broke down from over here, saying we could see a bigger correction. So far, what has it been? Right? 2%. Anyway, at this particular point in time, here on the Nasdaq, right? We are now taking out an important level over here, looking for that correction. It's too soon. And by the way, I'm just recapping what we said on Friday. This was the place to take profits. Anyone in that trade, who was in that trade and why? People who took the last repair out. We did it together. Go back and watch the videos in May, and then go back further and watch the videos in March when we took the entries, right? This was the exit over here. Is it time to re-enter again? Long or short? If you're a swing trader and you're trading the minis, maybe you're looking now for waiting for the bounce and then looking for a resumption off to sell. We've had technical breakdown over here. You're not looking to buy the dip. The earliest that we'll look to buy the dip will be on the repair out of here. It's too soon to be looking for the repair and to buy out of the repair, but we will do that together going forward. And we don't know if this corrects 2% past the breakdown or if this comes down much further, 10% or more. But we'll be there and we'll be waiting for the repair out for the potential next entry to the long side. Do you want to sell the equity markets? What's your time preference? What's your time frame? Who has made more money? The people trying to sell the equity markets over the past 12 years or the people who are buying the dips? Does that mean that you should always buy the dip and one day there won't be a time when buying the dip gets you wrecked? How long did it take for the Japanese stock market to recover, right, from 1980s, right? No, you have to follow what's going on in the charts, right? Right now, you we just take profit. Do not people want to do something always. Well, this was like a time to take profit, and now you wait until we say, all right, well, listen, if you're looking to sell, if you're a day trader, here's a potential place where, when I say day trader, I mean a swing trader. Because anyway, but either which way, when we're looking for longs over here, we'll do it together. S&P 500, is this going to be a place to lean in and buy off the support? If this support holds over here, right, and we resume off there, is that a potential buy? And honestly, do you want to buy into this resistance? Because you are looking at, I'm not on long tail. Oh, okay, I have this line over here as well. I was wondering why that didn't make sense to me. But here we go. Are you going to buy off if this support holds into the resistance? I wouldn't. You know, this is a nice. If we break this trend line over here and you get the opportunity for a retest and a resumption, that's a nice scalp between this area over here. That's something. But this is not enough room for me to take a position. And if you're waiting, and as we said since January, if you're waiting on on the equities to get in, you have to wait for that correction. 2-3% is not a correction. 8-9%, yeah, that's a correction. Are you going to get that? I don't know, but that's when the opportunity is there. We will watch these now going forward as they're towards now they're interesting, right? The DXY, that's coming in for a perfect retest right now. Let's see what happens. Is it possible you get a failed retest and that we come back down into this area? Yeah, it's possible. Is it possible we hold and break? If we do, that's the place to be looking for dollar trades, probably against other pairs, long dollar. Tomorrow morning, I was gonna say tomorrow morning we're not actually we probably won't do the live training session because of how the markets are set up. 100% we're going to be doing our live FX session over here. There could be lots of potential setups finally for the dollar. We'll be looking into that more closely. All right, everyone. What else is there? Dan is pointing out the Lightning Network seems to be taking off. How much Bitcoin is on the Lightning Network? I could very well be wrong, but I think it's a relatively low. I know it's growing rapidly, but is it something like, I don't want to say a number and sound. If someone could correct me, please do, because I would like to know. Is it 1,400 Bitcoin are on the Lightning Network? I mean, it's still very small, right? And it's starting its parabolic curve up. Yes, this is good, Dan. But it is growing exponentially right now. Is it possible that it will disrupt the 4-year cycle to the upside? I don't think so whatsoever. I don't think so whatsoever, right? That doesn't put any pressure on the Bitcoin network, not at all, Dan. But very good point in that the Lightning Network is starting to make its parabolic move up in growing adoption, right? So that was Yazar. The market's crashing. Someone in Korea lined up the bear market on previous cycles, and on this one, and things rhyme. We're reaching 40K into that. No, I'll just leave that there. I don't think so at all. Listen, if that's something someone wants to spend time with, maybe they're right. Maybe they're right. But again, you have to go back and you have to say, okay, in the past, what kind of history does this person have? Do they have a history being on the right side? That's not something that I want to spend any of my time with. If Bitcoin went peaking in October, hold on one second. It went from Bitcoin peaking in October to Bitcoin reaching previous all-time highs, lengthening cycles, May 2000. Yeah, the KS model, it's possible. That's why we sat down to have a conversation with Ken, just in case, we start seeing lengthening cycles. If we start seeing lengthening cycles, I want to know, and I want to have the best edge going forward, not just for this market cycle, but looking forward, to the next halving event and what happens forward. I don't know how to reconcile lengthening cycles this early in adoption. And when I say this early in adoption, remember in 2019, I made the case, follow the growth of the internet, compare that to Bitcoin, right? That was over here. And since then, it's continued. It's actually starting outpacing it. But we're in the early adopter stage. We haven't even reached 1 billion users. And we are not reaching the top of the curve. Fast forward here 10 years, for sure we're seeing diminishing returns. And I don't know about lengthening cycles. Maybe. It's a theory out there. But what I can't reconcile myself, and I could be wrong, is how we're going to see lengthening cycles the next two halvings, because at that point, the halving event itself is no longer a catalyst, because these cycles are longer than the 4 years, or longer than 210,000 blocks. Now, I get why someone looks at this and says, we're seeing lengthening cycles, right? But when they do that, right, are you lining it up from the bottom? And then are you looking at days? Or are you lining things up from the halving And are you looking at block count? I think it's important to look at Bitcoin from all different vantage points. Just because Bitcoin right here today, mid-cycle, is under pressure, I am not like, oh, wait. Do you all remember? It wasn't too long ago. It was right over here in September of this year, mid-September, Bitcoin was trading around $10,000. Many of you were here with me. And the question was, Jordan, you said Bitcoin is going to reach at least the price of $18,000 by December. Do you still believe that? And as firm as can be, as confident as can be, I was like, absolutely. There's no question about that. And then what happened? Bitcoin not only reached 18,000, I mean, it took it out substantially, right? What did we peak over here? I can't see because this is in the way. What did we peak out in December? Reaching $30,000, right? Bitcoin could move when she gets ready to move. I was not dissuaded by the amount of time we had left. And I'm not, why we don't know where the peak is. We don't have that type of preview to understand, but we have a window and we're looking within this window, right? And do I think that Bitcoin has the potential to see that type of price appreciation within that window with the amount of time left? Oh my goodness, of course. I don't need to say, oh, there's not enough time, so I want to revert to lengthening cycles. No, it's too soon for me to be saying, well, my base case is lengthening cycles. I want to know what's going on. I don't see that at all. Don't forget, it was 4 years ago today in the 2017 bull run in July where Bitcoin put in that mid-cycle capitulation and then sprang up. We have a lot of time left over here. Right now, things are unclear for us, right? How long have I been saying things are unclear? Since May 14th. It was May 14th on the live stream on Friday. I said things are unclear, right? Then we broke down, and then did I change? No, things are unclear. Things remain unclear until we break this. That's the clarity that I have for myself. I hope it helps you. Well, we're watching Bitcoin breakdown right now together. Let's see. Let's take a look as we come in towards this. This is a guideline. I don't know if this is correct, by the way. That channel over there, I wouldn't be using that myself. What I mean by that is, look, like if I go ahead and make that a straight line, right? What we peaked out over here, again over there. It's fuzzy, but it gives me all the clarity I need. And it's been giving me the clarity I need for these past few weeks. This is what I continue to watch. A breakdown in this area. Is it easier horizontally? I guess it's right. I mean, we're on the verge. We're looking off the cliff, right? We're about to like look off the cliff over here, and whether or not this area holds, which it could, it is support right now, or we break down. We're soon going to find out and what it means. Are people watching right now? Because people are worried about the unlocking of the grayscale Bitcoin shares. And someone showed me on Twitter, if you looked at what happened during past unlocks of grayscale shares, you saw price on Bitcoin itself appreciate from those unlocking dates. Will that happen again, or is this time different because of the negative NAV? I don't know. I don't have the answers to those questions whatsoever, right? But I believe all of that to be noise. I sincerely do. I'm not worried about any of that. What should you though? Did you see all those inflows onto exchanges? Should you be worried about that? Yeah. When people start sending Bitcoin to exchanges, by the way, they know it's a public ledger. So when these whales move massive amounts of coin, by the way, if you're a whale, are you selling bottoms? Right? Do you think whales from what I've seen by watching on-chain data, by the way, they accumulated when I accumulated, when everyone was very bearish, but they were selling, they were distributing this whole way up, right? This whole way up, they were distributing. And by the way, they also did that in past market cycles. And I pointed out to you going forward, the next cycle, that I will be much more keen to following that roadmap. For sure, right? Not something that going into this bull market that I was planning on executing. But next bull market cycle, I will be. And the whales, that's how they not only accumulated when I accumulated, they sold over here, right? And they've been accumulating over here. They've been on chain, they've been accumulating again. And that's the same behavior they did in the past cycles. Do you see whales, or do we have any behavior of whales actually after the dip, then going ahead and moving coin onto exchanges and then selling? We don't yet. It could happen this cycle, but we don't have any history of that occurring. That would be weird, because if you're a whale, right? If you're the smart money, and maybe you're not really smart money. A lot of Bitcoiners made a lot of coin mining early. They don't understand the price behavior of Bitcoin. They'll be the first to tell you, but they've held, right? So maybe you have some whale who's just like, you know what, I'm done. It's been too long, and I doubt it. Or do you have someone trying to pull like a psyop on you and trying to get you to sell your Bitcoin by sending a whole bunch of Bitcoin to exchange to send fear out there? And could that cause a lot of retail to capitulate? And then you all of a sudden you see all that money on exchange come here, buy that up, and then they get ready for the next half. That's probably more probable, in my opinion. That's probably more probable, in my opinion. Is there anything we left out? I'm not sure. Solid, good session. I always forget to ask people to subscribe to the channel. Actually, I have a long history of never asking people to subscribe to the channel. I always ask you to go ahead and smash the like button, but I should have asked you in the very beginning of the video. If you enjoy being here, if there's anything that you learned and you want to know more, we do it every day, Monday through Friday. We go live at 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, a half hour before the U.S. equity markets open. And we take that clarity we need to go ahead and make sure we stay on the right side of the market, to conquer the markets, to conquer ourselves, and to go ahead and create a better future and a better world. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do so. Everyone, I wish you a beautiful day. I am going to go ahead, though, and just check it in the comments once more before I get off, and I'll play some Honey Mood while I do that. This is a good one. Let's make sure we help everyone find the clarity they need. So when I said that $55,000 Bitcoin is cheap, right? We'll call it as it is. 55,000 Bitcoin is cheap. That's the meme. That meme is going to be trolled to you for sure as Bitcoin breaks $100,000. Is there anyone out there who doesn't think that Bitcoin is going to break $100,000? And if you're that person, could you please put that in the comments? I always like to know the psychological makeup of the market participants. It's really helpful for me. Yeah. So if anyone doesn't think that Bitcoin is gonna break $100,000, right? Or what about $500,000, right? Do you think that Bitcoin is gonna overtake the market cap of gold next cycle? This cycle, it's possible. This cycle, next cycle, probable $500,000 a Bitcoin overtaking the market cap of gold. Does it stop there? If you saw Anthony Pomp last week was talking with Willy Woo, who, by the way, has given up on the 4-year cycle, says that it's no longer valid and that we just have a random walk here on in to 1 million. And Anthony Pompliano's response was, and do you think it stops there? Right? All right. So do you think, by the way, that we're not going to see $100,000 Bitcoin? But when we do, I am going to troll you with 55,000 Bitcoin is cheap, but people are very confused. Actually, people are very weak. People are very weak minded, especially a lot of the people who have just over these past few months gotten into the space. Now, that doesn't mean if you just got into the space over the last few months that you are weak minded. What I mean by that, and it was the same thing over at the bottom when the markets were crashing, and when the markets were crashing and we were the ones selling them, and not only selling them, calling the bottom, right? Positioning heavily here into risk off in the currency markets as well against commodity currencies, absolutely crushing it and destroying it like no one else out there, and then getting the bottom. And not only getting the bottom, this was hard. This was hard over here too, right? But making sure that for the majority of the move that we stayed on the right side, right? People are, when we talk about $55,000 Bitcoin being cheap, it's relative to what the coming bear market low will be and what this cycle's peak will be. Those things have always been said. Don't get confused. When I say that new participants are weak, I mean, a lot of people out there looking for the flavor of the day, looking for the new meme stock, going after, AMC and GameStop and all that business over it. They have no idea about what it means to trade in the markets. Now, I may know a thing or two. I've been around for over 20 years doing it myself for over 20 years, Listen, if you look at the past cycles and you look at over here, and if you look at that mid-cycle high, that mid-cycle high, that mid-cycle high, and then you fast forward to the low of the following bear market, it happens to be the bottom, right? So it was in this area over here as we were around $50,000 that I said 55,000 Bitcoin is cheap into what the coming bear market will be, the bear market low. I said I think the low of the market of the coming bear market will be around $50,000, and I'm not going to give you a specific price of what it will be because that's impossible. But I do believe it's going to be around $50,000, and that's why $55,000 Bitcoin is cheap. Because if you own Bitcoin at $55,000 in the coming bear market, price should not trade below that. And in this current bull market, $55,000, again, as price breaks above $100,000 for this cycle peak, you're not going to get a chance. People are then going to wish they had $55,000 Bitcoin. But people's time preferences are very, let's say, all over the place. That's okay. I'm clear about when I give mine and where I am and why. All right, everyone. Great session. Great session. I hope that I hope we got everything across that was needed today. I spent a lot of time making sure to prepare for it, wanting to make sure that we have the awareness that we need for where we are right now, and to make sure that we're able to go ahead through the rest of this year, stay on the right side of the bull of all bulls. Because when the bull bucks, she moves. And every time we've come out of here, we've come out really hard and fast, right? Now I called, are we going to see a V? I have no idea. Is it possible we don't see a V? Yeah, it's quite possible. If we see a capitulation, by the way, it becomes much more likely that we see a V. Here we got Jesse's input over here. Ted helping line up what that might potentially look like, right? We're more focused in on not what happens in this area so much as what happens as we break this area. When we break the most important trend line in crypto, that gives us the next bit of clarity we need for the momentum to be, back in our favor. And then from the time we break that, just as I told you, when we break, from $10,000 to the end of December was going to be that hard and sharp and fast move. I'm saying again, once we break the most important trend line in crypto, until we take the new all-time high out, it's going to be relatively quick. And then when we make that new all-time high, we're going to be consulting heavily on CTM models over here, trying our best to make sure that we have that awareness to then dial in just into price and price alone. And if we have the opportunity to get out at the cycle top, to do it. And that's it. All right, everyone. I'll see you all tomorrow. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Giles. Jesse's been all over that for a while, and that's why we're watching. That's why we're watching, Jesse. Thank you for all of your hard work. Thank you, Ted, Ian, for being so open into listening to everyone inside CTM and making sure that collectively we put together the best guide that we can. The best guide that we can. Thank you, Arshin. I really, really am grateful for that. You know, Nicholas, De Jesus, Miguel, Dave, every single one of you, you are so important to me. Thanks for being here, Giles. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful day. I'll see you all tomorrow. No, no, Marcin. No, I did not. So, and just because there are some people joining us that are new. Oh, I missed the comment about the participants. Vincent, new participants are weak. This is actually quite disrespectful. Right? So, Vincent, listen, I don't understand. The Bitcoin as a growing technology needs new to participants more than anything else to grow. Look, Vincent, it's very easy to cherry pick something, but you didn't comment about when I said that if you're listening and you're new, I'm not necessarily talking about you. Right, Vincent? You missed that part, or when you shared that part, you omitted that part. That's not really fast. That's actually quite disrespectful, Vincent, to go ahead and to only misquote someone, to take a portion of what they said, Vincent. But you know what, Vincent? There's no participation trophies here. This is the markets. Man up. This is the markets. This is not about like creating an atmosphere where everyone feels good. This is about us profiting from calculated risk and calculated returns. This is about us taking something very seriously. You're competing in an arena with the smartest minds in the world, right? Competing for one of the most precious resources in the world, which is money and capital, right? Vincent, you got to man up. This is not about PC and being politically correct and making sure everyone feels good and is fine. All right? There are a lot of new participants in the space who feel like they get a free lunch. And if they're not getting that free lunch, they don't feel that they should put the work in or understand how to manage their risk or why. Right? Is that disrespectful? No, that's actually love. That's a hard thing for people don't understand what love is. Love is not easy, right? Right? Love is making sure that everyone is able. What is love? Love is patient, love is kind, right? So love is wanting the best for the other person, right? Love is, and if you're jumping in here and you're thinking that like, you know what? When I say you're weak, it's to help make you strong. If I'm telling you that you're weak-minded, it's to help you understand the reality of the situation, because love is truth. Love is not lying or misleading people, right? Vincent, listen, feel free to quote me, but if you quote me in truth. Don't cherry pick. All right? What else? I wish I had some background music playing right now. Oh, all right. And but there was something else that was important in Vincent's comment that I wanted to make sure. Oh, new participants. It's true. They're jumping in right over here, looking for Bitcoin to go. $55,000. Did I buy some? That's what I wanted to touch in. No, I was very clear that I was fully positioned in before the bull market began. I let you know when the bull market began technically and when I was trading it and when I stopped trading it. But my plan was not to buy any Bitcoin at all during the bull market phase. When I bought more Bitcoin, it was at $39,000 and 33,500, and I bought it letting you know, hey, listen, I believe we're mid-cycle and price is off 50%. It's an opportunity. Yeah, I'm buying Bitcoin now at these levels, and understand that. Because if you remember the last time I bought Bitcoin and you remember what the prices were, you might want to consult someone who has a history of being correct. Now, you don't want to follow them blindly, but you want to consult them, right? And by the way, if anyone bought Bitcoin at $55,000, right, I would have told my mom to buy Bitcoin I would have encouraged my mom to buy Bitcoin at $55,000, because I know my mom's time preference is not 2 months or 3 months. If she's buying Bitcoin at $55,000, right? How far in the future is she looking? And looking back, will Bitcoin $55,000 have been a phenomenal entry? For sure. And here we are, 30,000. A lot of people liked it up at 64,000. I like it down here in the 30s, and that's where I'm buying, right? So what else? All right, everyone. I think we gotta. I never want to get off. I just really enjoyed the time we spent together. Always learning so much. That's right, my brother. Right? No one. That's right. And it's early. Here's a chance for me to learn from Soul with the dollar sign. The Hebrew word, forgive my pronunciation, Baruch atah Adonai. Baruch atah Adonai, ahava, for love, is an action word. Too many people don't want to take action or be responsible for their own actions, but get it in their feelings. Yeah, you guys are the best there ever was. People are following the technicals and they say strong sell, right? Well, I'm following the technicals, right? Bitcoin is bearish. Well, we all know that, right? Bitcoin is bearish in the near term price action. When I look at this chart over here, I want to find a fuller one for you. Let's go ahead and look at this. This gives us much more price data, right? So when people look at that chart, they're saying, well, it all comes down to time preference. When I look at this chart, there's nothing bearish about it for myself. Nope. Actually, when I look at this chart, I'm buying and I bought, right? When I look at this chart, I'm buying and I bought, right? So people are looking at this chart and they're saying that's bearish. Well, if people are looking at the daily chart and they're saying, well, on a swing trader's time preference, that's bearish. Okay. But there's a lot of people talking about a head and shoulders, right? And that was one of the reasons they're saying it's so bearish. But all of a sudden, this right shoulder is really starting to lengthening out. Is that still a head and shoulders with the right shoulder showing no symmetry to the left shoulder? I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know. Well, I don't think that's it. People are saying the charts are bearish. If you're looking at the 2 hours, that chart bearish. If I'm looking at the 2 hour time frame, I'm into support. So I can't think that's bearish. But that's day trader, right? Buy off support, sell off resistance until the level breaks. The level breaks, look for the retest resumption. The level breaks, look for the retest resumption. So what about the 8 hour? Well, that 8 hour too, swing trader, I'm into support. I can't sell when I'm into support. Do I want to buy that? No way. I don't want to buy off that support. Things are looking really weak. If I'm looking to buy, and I told you that earlier in this session, I'll tell you again, the first opportunity, if we hold over here, that I would look to buy would be on a breakout of this trend line over here on the upside. And I think if that happens, we come into the most important trend line in crypto. What happens there, we don't know. If the bears are able to hold the most important trend line in crypto and resume off there, that could be a bad sign. That could be a really bad sign. Interesting if we make a shorter cycle, peak at $64,000. This is the bear market, and we never had what we see in that bear market within 6 weeks. We're down 70%. We're past 6 weeks. That would be new. It would be different. A lot would be different. I don't see it. Are we bearish right now? It really depends on your time frame, right? Listen, I'm bullish. I am uber bullish. Just so everyone knows, I think that we are mid-cycle. I think by the end of the year, we are looking, not only at 6-digit numbers on Bitcoin, breaking $100,000. I don't think this is the backup. The backup is diminishing returns, $160,000, 140,000 mission accomplished. I hope I accomplished the mission. But I don't think that's what we're looking at this particular cycle. I think we're looking at actually increasing returns from the prior cycle. My price prediction remains in this area over here, 260, 410,000, with the sweet spot in that area. We'll see who got it right. You guys are all bearish. That's all good. I don't know your time frame when you say that. When people are saying they're looking at the technicals, well, that's very vague, right? That's very vague, right? Because if you're looking at the technicals, well, I don't know. That's very vague to say the charts don't lie. Yeah, the charts don't lie. The Bitcoin has been in a absolutely phenomenal, strong uptrend ever since inception. The charts don't lie. Bitcoin is in a massive uptrend ever since its inception. There's no reason to believe that you're catching the top over here, and why would you, right? So, if the charts don't lie, and if you're following the technicals, man, this thing is extraordinary. Actually, this is the most bullish asset that ever existed and is today. And if you're bearish on the most bearish asset that's ever existed, while they are continually fighting to devalue all fiat currency and continue to run the printer and expand their they're not capped at $21 million or anything. They continue. 40% of all dollars were printed last year. That continues. All right, everyone. That's the way I see it. You don't have to agree. I bought the dip. I haven't been following the work of Jeremy, John K. on Twitter. Is Wyckoff still in the cards? I'm not sure. I do know, though, for sure. I always look for the simplest explanation and or route. And whether we're looking at Wyckoff or not, right, it's going to come down to the most important trend line in crypto. If you're listening, if there's any work you put out on Twitter recently on what's going on with the spring, on the Wyckoff accumulation pattern, please go ahead and tag me. I'll make sure to take a look at it, retweet it to get some more eyes on there. Same thing with you, Jeremy. CTM all day long. Thank you, everyone, for the session. Have a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you soon. I bought at 250K in 2016 summer. But I did post world, that's for sure. The rest, yeah, I didn't sell the top. I wasn't aware of the 4-year cycle. Amen, Diamondback. Amen. Amen. Bitcoin is fair and just. Adam, you're not the first. I mean, ever since inception, people have been calling the death of Bitcoin. That's been the worst trade of the decade. Everyone has called the death of Bitcoin. I mean, why not get on the right side? Justin, big shout out to you, my brother. Robert. Right. The most money is made sitting on your hands. You're selling mid-cycle. The most money's made sitting on your hands. You're bearish on Bitcoin. Listen, this was a really good one, Wes. You know, look, I'm still trading my plan. I bought in under 10K, and I'm taking this bull run to learn and trade. Thank you. Keith is absolutely phenomenally amazing. Wes, there was something I wanted to build up. Listen, Wes, you bought in at 10K, right? Under 10K, right? And listen, if you're wrong, or I don't want to say if you're wrong, if I'm wrong, right, Wes? And let's say what happens when I'm wrong. Let's look at this. Really, I was thinking about this myself. Wes, you're a perfect example to talk about it. If I'm wrong, and this is the top of the bull market, and we saw a shorter cycle. Now, granted, there are other things to consider out there, like lengthening cycles, and we know whether it's Ken or Benjamin, the people we could go to have been like on top of lengthening cycles. So that would be where we would look for sure, right? But no one I know has been saying shorter cycles and or why they would believe that. But if this is a shorter cycle and we entered a bear market, and we don't know if we did, that we would only have an 85% drawdown. But assuming we only had an 85% drawdown, all right, and we trade back down to your entry, Wes, right? Are you exiting Bitcoin, or are you like me, ride or die, right? Are you like me? Are you in it for the long run, right? If you're wrong on Bitcoin and you were early, like you are, Wes, you're still right, are you not? If you have to hold this thing through the next halving say it took another 4 years or 3.5 years, as the price is never taking more than 3.5 years to take out an all-time high, and you have to wait another 3.5 years to break $64,000. Now, I think the odds of this happening are extraordinarily low. Less than 1%. I don't see it. Is it possible? Anything's possible, right? But at the same time, Wes, you're so early that no matter what, you're right, you know? And there it is. All right, we're gonna end it here, folks. Thanks for spending this Monday with me. Thanks for spending this Monday morning. I hope we bought the clarity we need. You know, I definitely did. I enjoy so much going over these thought experiments with you. It's really important. It's not to consult the days when we talk about lengthening cycles, right? Make sure we understand that we're following blocks, not days, in between halvings, right? We want to consult the greatest accuracy that we consult. I use the halving, right? Because the halving is the event of all events that causes Bitcoin to do its bull, bear, and accumulation cycles. Now, whether or not we continue going forward, reverting, because I think, or was under the impression that once, like the Root, this is why we interviewed the Root, because he had the same thought process as us. Once price makes that new all-time high, you then want to be watching price into the cycle peak from the new all-time high. In these both cases, it was 300 days. Now, it's looking like this cycle, that's looking different. And now we're reverting back to perhaps, is it possible we see this bull market peak again in December? It's entirely possible. As it is, the previous two cycles have peaked in December, and they've also bottomed in December, January 15th, más o menos, in the ballpark. All right, everyone. We'll see what we bring tomorrow. Whatever it is going to be fire. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you all then.